Thank you, Daryl. If you have your Bible today, turn with me to the book of Exodus, in chapter 3, verses 1 through 14. Continuing our series on Amazing Grace, Great Conversion Stories from the Bible. Today we come to Moses. One could argue that this is a call experience or a rededication experience. I personally think that Moses' experience is a lot like a lot of ours. It is a watershed experience in his life. It is a great transition. It is a conversion experience of some degree. You could argue when he believed and things like that, it's up to you. But like I told you myself, that there are times when I'm not sure if I was actually saved when I was 6 or when I was 16.
Where is it?
But nonetheless, I know I've been born again. And in Moses' life, I think we see something similar with that. Beginning to read in chapter 3, verse 1. Now Moses was pasturing the flock of Jethro, his father-in-law, the priest of Midian. And he led the flock to the west side of the wilderness and came to the Horeb, the mountain of God. And the angel of the Lord appeared to him in a blazing fire from the midst of the bush. And he looked, and behold, the bush was burning with fire, yet the bush was not consumed. So Moses said, I must turn aside now and see this marvelous sight, why the bush is not burned up. And the Lord saw that he turned aside to look. God called him from the midst of the bush and said, Moses, Moses. And he said, Here I am. And then he said, Do not come near here. Remove your sandals from your feet, for the place on which you're standing is holy ground. And he said also, I am the God of your father, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, the God of Jacob. And Moses hid his face, for he was afraid to look at God. And the Lord said, I have surely seen the affliction of my people who are in Egypt, and I've given heed to their cry because of their taskmasters. For I am aware of their sufferings. So I've come now down to deliver them from the power of the Egyptians, and to bring them up from the land of good and spacious land, the land flowing with milk and honey, to the place of the Canaanite, the Hittite, the Amorite, the Perizzite, and the Hivite, and the Jebusite. And now behold, the cry of the sons of Israel has come to me. Furthermore, I've seen the oppression with which the Egyptians are oppressing them. Therefore come now, and I will send you to Pharaoh, that you may bring my people to the sons of Israel out of Egypt. But Moses said to God, Who am I, that I should go to Pharaoh, and that I should bring the sons of Israel out of Egypt? And he said, Certainly I will be with you, and this shall be a sign to you, that it is I who have sent you. When you brought the people out of Egypt, you shall worship God at this mountain. Then Moses said to God, Behold, I am going to the sons of Israel, and I shall say to them, The God of your fathers has sent me to you. Now they may say to me, What is his name? And what shall I say to them? And God said to Moses, I am who I am. And he said, Thus shall you say to the sons of Israel, I am, has sent me to you. Moses is a remarkable character, and the story is more remarkable when you realize all the issues at play in Moses' life. In the beginning of this call experience, Moses felt unworthy. And in all frankness, I've lived long enough now in my life to worry about people who do not have a sense of unworthiness in the relationship to God. Yet it's something that we find in our day, in our culture. People who feel no need of God. People who feel like they're morally okay and they're doing okay financially, so there's really no need of God. Moses is not a person like that. He felt a deep need of God. Moses felt unworthy because of his past, his sin, and his conflicted family. Think about Moses' background with me, if you will, for a moment. Here's a young man who was born under a death sentence. Pharaoh had given the order that all the Hebrew baby boys were to be killed at birth because they feared them overpopulating the land and taking over all of Egypt. Moses' godly parents, remember the story? Put together a little basket out of the bulrushes, tarred it, the Bible says, and hid this baby on the edges of the Nile River when they came looking for him. They sent his older sister Mary out to kind of watch out for him along the river where they had him hid to make sure nothing fell him. And one day out there trying to hide this baby out under those ridiculous circumstances, one of the princesses of Egypt is out there, bathing in the Nile, and she finds this baby. She realizes it's a baby that somebody's trying to hide from the Pharaoh. And she takes it as her own and adopts it. Mary is smart enough at this point to kind of inject herself into the situation and offer to go get a nursemaid for this baby. That baby's nursemaid in the house of Pharaoh will be its own natural mother, unbeknownst to the household of Pharaoh. Moses' mother got to raise it right there in the palace. It is a remarkable story of deliverance, but it is the story of a conflicted family. As you all are aware, I have 2 adopted children. My twins, James and Janice, were adopted by Janet and I. We got it all done when they were about 3. They came to us as foster children when they were about 14 months old. They were cute little boogers, captured our heart, and we knew the first day that we had them that we got the chance we were going to adopt them. And sure enough, it worked out. Janet and I have been raising these kids now, and they're going to be 24 now, all those years. 24 of their years, I've had most of those 23 years. And I'm here to tell you that children of adoption are more complicated than birth children. You'll hear people debate about this, they'll fuss about it, they'll try to ignore the reality of it. But I'm here to tell you, adopted children have issues that your natural children won't have. They're conflicted in that they're not sure quite where they belong. They always have this psychological thing where they're not quite sure they fit in. Janet and I were so leery of dealing with adoption issues that before the twins got to be 5, we consulted a psychologist, a godly Christian man named Ross Campbell, down in Chattanooga about how to deal with adoption issues. And he gave us some good ideas and told us what we needed to do, and we felt well prepared. But there came a time in their life, and we knew it would, when they began to ask questions about why they were adopted and where they came from, and all of these things. I can remember it. I can take you to the spot out in South Knoxville, out in Vestal, where I was driving in the van, going to Kroger's, doing some grocery shopping. And they've been back there like twins do, conniving together. You know, my twins are always thicker than thieves. If you raise twins, you know what I mean. They can tell what the other's thinking, can't they? They've been back there kind of talking in the back seat, and then out of the quiet, getting ready to turn a corner. Janice said to me, "Daddy, why didn't our mama want us?" You see, that's the kind of thing that these children grow up with. This sense of unworthiness because why didn't their natural family want that? Why didn't that work out? In James and Janice's life, I told them what Mr. Campbell had kind of given us an idea of what to do. I told them that their mother had a serious addiction problem, and she loved them very much, and she would have liked to have taken care of them, but she just could not conquer her addiction problem, and she had other issues, and she realized that they loved us. And when she visited, the children would cry when we left and things like that. And she felt like it would be best for them if they were with a family that could look after and care for them. And that's how we began the saga of telling them about their adoption story. It was, in fact, much more complicated than that. Much more complicated. James and Janice's natural father had stabbed their mother at one point. He was involved in a hired murder here in North Knox County, and he died in jail about 2 or 3 years ago. It was a much more complicated story than that. That is the thing that adopted kids live with. They have this conflicted thing in them that comes out sometimes, and it can be difficult to handle. They sometimes deal with bonding issues. A psychologist told us that James and Janice, since we got them a little later, at 14 months old, that we'd spend the rest of our life bonding with them, reminding them we love them, hugging them, kissing them. All the rest of their adult life, he said, we'd do that. They have bonding issues. They kind of feel out of place. Don't know quite where they belong. And I'm here to tell you guys, this is where Moses was in his life. This is where it had haunted him all of his life. How he was raised in kind of 2 home settings and all that kind of stuff. His heart was with his natural family in a strange sort of way. So much so that he identified with the suffering of the Israelites. And there came a time when he saw an Egyptian abusing an Israelite. And Moses interfered. And in the course of the fight, he kills the Egyptian and has to run for his life. Moses felt unworthy because this conflicted family. I have talked to senior citizens who were adopted who are still haunted by that conflicted background. It still gives them issues and problems. Moses was only haunted by that. He was haunted by that sin in his past, that big bad thing he'd done. He killed a man trying to protect the Israelites. And so he fled. For all practical purposes, Moses was sure that his life and his ministry were over. That he would die in the desert of Midian, a sheep herder. No greater purpose for God. Giving up on the hope of freeing any Israelites. He made a mess of that. And haunted by that past, and probably looking over his shoulder quite a bit to see if Pharaoh had found him. A member of the royal family who killed an Egyptian. He felt terribly unworthy about it. And yet one day out there, thinking he's forgotten, thinking that purpose in his life was lost, he saw God in a burning bush. And the thing that impressed him about the bush was that the bush was blazing on fire, but was not consumed. And that is a symbol of God's mercy and patience with us. Hebrews says our God is a consuming fire, yet this bush was not consumed. It is God putting out the olive branch to Moses to say to him, there's still work with you I can do. And the most important thing I can say to anybody who's dealing with issues in their past is this: I don't care what's in your past. Christ can redeem it. He can redeem it. And it's strange the hurts that God uses. So Moses turns and he sees this bush, and then he hears something else miraculous in verse 4. This voice from the bush calls his name. God knew who he was. Adopted children sometimes feel a little forgotten. Janet and I have fought the fairness issue all of our life because we raise natural children and adopted children. And James and Janice were always sure we weren't being quite fair. And I'm sure we weren't perfect, and I'm sure we made mistakes. There was a time when they were younger teenagers, I was sure they were going to be American civil liberties union lawyers. They were so tuned in to what was fair and what wasn't fair. But such is life. Moses heard his name. He was special to God. And it may be in your background that maybe you weren't adopted, but you were a neglected child. Maybe you were an abused child. Quite frankly, after last Sunday's sermon, I've had numerous people say to me, Pastor, I've enjoyed that sermon very much. It spoke to me about my own background. And that's remarkable. That's remarkable. Moses was afraid. And here's the thing you need to hear. Moses didn't realize it. But even with his past, even with the sin of murder on his list, and even with his conflicted background, his family messed up the way it was, he was an answer to prayer. Moses was a tremendous answer to prayer. And I don't know what your past is and things that you suffered in your life, and neglected or abused, and all those things. And maybe you grew up in a single-parent home, and et cetera, et cetera. I don't know. But I do know this. Sometimes those deepest hurts are the things that God uses the best. This I know. And it